Preshthaya Bhutale
Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale
Srimate Bhakti Vedanta
Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta
Swamin iti namine
Swamy Niti Namine
Namaste Saraswate Deve
Namaste Saraswate Deve
Gauravani Pracharine
Gaurabani Pracharine
Nirvishesha Shunyavadi
Nirvishesha Shunyavadi
Paschatya Deshatarine
Pashyata Deshatarine
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Prabhu Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhara
Sri Advaita Gadadhara
Srivasadi Gauravakta Vrinda
Srivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Rama Rama Hare Hare.
I think after 2-3 weeks we are all meeting. There was a gap for a couple of weeks. So again we'll continue our discussions where we have left in the last session. So here on the concept of surrender, earlier Krishna spoke about 4 people who doesn't surrender and 4 categories of people who surrender on condition. Now there are many other people who surrender but not to Krishna but to the demigods. Now what is the significance of the worshipper of the demigods and what is the result of worshipping the demigods is explained in 4 verses from 20 till 23rd. So today we'll understand these specific 4 verses. All of you can recite. Kamaistaistar hratagnyana prapadyante anya devataha tam tam niyamam astaya prakritaya niyata swaya Kamaistaistar hratagnyana prapadyante anya devataha tam tam niyamam astaya prakritaya niyata swaya. So Krishna clearly says here, Kama is there pratak jnana. Pratak jnana means one who is lost his intelligence. To satisfy his desires, kamaihi, then prapadyante anya devata. He surrenders to various demigods. Tam tam niyama mastaya. He follows the rules and regulations as set up for the demigod. Prakritaya niyatasvaya. And he worships according to that specific procedures which are established in the system. So here it says, those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires. Kama is there, pratak jnanaha. Because of kama, pratak jnanaha. Jnana has been lost. Surrender unto demigods. Prapadyante anya devata. And tam tam niyama mastaya. Follow the particular rules and regulations of worship. Prakritaya niyatasvaya. According to their own natures. So this is that. Who are worshipping the demigods? Those people who intelligence has been stolen away by material desires. Only they worship the demigod. That is clearly worshipped. That is clearly mentioned here. So who surrenders to the Supreme Lord? Those who are free from material contamination, they surrender to the Supreme Lord. If they are not free, they are considered as non-devotees. Then even those who are having material desires and who resort to the Supreme Lord are not attracted by the external nature. There are many people, see, people with various degrees of attachment. Some people are attached to material aspirations and still worship the Lord. Some people are completely attached to material aspirations. They do not worship the Lord. Some people who are completely free from all material attachment, they worship the Lord. But people who have both, they wanted to have material things, but they wanted to worship the Supreme Lord. But because of their approaching the right goal, they soon become free from all these material hankerings and lust. So that's what Krishna says. Akama sarva kamova. This is a shloka quoted from Bhagavad Gita. Any desire you have or no desire. Akama sarva kamova. Moksha kama udarvi. Even up to the point of liberation. Tivrena bhakti yogena ajeta purusha param. By sincere, serious devotional service, we should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the conclusion mentioned in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 2nd canto, 3rd chapter. Now, why do people worship demigods? Ye Shraddhaya Barhishi Bhagasho Havir. This is quoted again from Bhagavatam. Those who have lost their spiritual sense, their attitude is who lost their spiritual sense, they worship the demigods. Their desire is sorry. They want immediate fulfillment of material desire. With a desire which has to be fulfilled immediately. Those people worship the demigods. And modes, those who are affected by lower modes, therefore they do not go to the Supreme Lord. And what is their level of motivation? Motivated by small desires and do not know how to realize a supreme goal. And what is their level of satisfaction? Satisfied by the rules and regulations of their worship. And what is their conception? They think demigods are better for certain purpose as per their study of Veda, sun god for better health, something like that. They can get their work done faster. This is their conception. Then what about pure devotees? They never go to demigods for satisfaction of material needs. He depends upon the Supreme Lord and is satisfied with whatever the Lord gives, because earlier it says, Yadrushta labha santushtaha. Whatever it comes of its own accord, they are very much satisfied. That is the nature of pure devotees. There is a shloka from Chaitanya Charitamrita which says, Ekale Ishvara Krishna Arasabha Bhrutya. There is only one Supreme Lord Krishna and everybody are his servants. A simple principle quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So they know whom to approach and they know what to approach. So this is that quoted in Bhagavatam, which explains that 2nd canto, 3rd chapter. What is the desire and which demigod to worship for? So to be absorbed in impersonal Brahma Jyoti, one has to worship Brahma. If you want powerful sex potency, we have to worship Indra. If you want good progeny, we should worship Daksha. If you want good fortune, we should worship Durga Devi. If you want power, we should worship Agni. If you want money, we should worship Vashus. To be a great hero, one should worship Rudra. If you want large stock of grains, we should worship Aditi. If you want a position in heavenly planets, we should worship Adityas. If you want a worldly kingdom, we should worship Vishwadeva. If you want popularity among general mass, we should worship Sadhyas. If you want long span of life, we should worship Ashwini Kumaras. If you want strongly built body, we should worship Earth. If you want stability in one's post, we should worship Earth on the horizon. If you want beauty, we should worship Gandharvas. If you want good wife, we should worship Apsaras and Urvasi. If you want dominion over others, we should worship Lord Brahma. If you want tangible fame, we should worship Supreme Lord Yajna. If you want good bank balance, we should worship Varuna. If you want vast learning, we should worship Lord Shiva. If you want good material relationship, we should worship Uma. If you want spiritual advancement in knowledge, worship Lord Vishnu or his devotee. Protection of heredity and advancement of a dynasty, we should worship various demigods. Domination over a kingdom or an empire, we should worship Manus. Victory over an enemy, we should worship demons. Sense gratification, we should worship Manu. These are the topics which are explained in Bhagavatam. In 2nd canto, 3rd chapter, verse number 2 till verse number 9. All the specific details of various demigods, with what specific desire, which demigod has to be worshipped for it to be fulfilled. These are the technical details given there. So, there was one wealthy person who used to organize various festivals and all. So he used to celebrate Durga Puja at his house with very gorgeous arrangements and all. He used to sacrifice goats from sunrise to sunset. But after a few years, the sacrifice was not so gorgeous. It became very dull. Then someone asked him, how is that, sir, that the sacrifice at your place has become such a simple affair? That elderly man said, don't you see, my teeth are gone now. Means earlier he was worshipping because he was able to eat because there was no teeth to eat. So he stopped offering that sacrifices. He was making it simple. So see how material conditions are impacting the worship of the demigods. It's simple to say, when they are active, energetic, they would like to worship. When they are dull, they would not like to worship. They would like to reduce their actions. So that category of people are worshipping demigod. Generally, that category of people worship because pratajnana, people who have lost intelligence, only they worship the demigod that is being mentioned here. So next shloka. Now Krishna is saying, so if you are worshipping the demigod, what is so unique thing? How you are getting attached to the demigod? Who is the person behind you to impress you upon the demigod? Krishna says that connection here. All of you can recite this verse. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhaktaha
Yo
Yo
yo yam tanam bhaktaha
shraddaya architum ichchati
Shraddhayarchutam ichchati
tasya tasya chalam shraddham
tasya chalam shraddham
tameva vidadami aham.
tameva vidadami aham.
Yo yo yam yam tanum bhaktaha
Yo yo yam tanam bhaktaha
shraddaya architum ichchati
Shraddhayarchutam ichchati
tasya tasya chalam shraddham
tasya chalam shraddham
tameva vidadami aham.
tameva vidadamyaham.
So yo yo yam yam tanum bhaktaha. There are the bhaktas for the specific demigods. Shraddaya architum ichchati. If they wanted to worship with faith that specific demigod, tasya tasya achalam shraddham. I make his shraddha very strong, very faith. Achalam. Chalam means which is fluctuating. Achalam means which is not fluctuating. That shraddham, I make it very concrete. Tameva vidadami aham. Actually, it is I who am making it because I am that one as Paramatma in his heart. I make his faith very strong in that specific demigod so that he can completely devote to that demigod. This is what Krishna is saying. I am in everyone's heart as a super soul. Tameva vidadami aham. It is I. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, yo yo yam yam tanum bhaktaha, I make his faith steady. Shraddaya architam ichchati, as soon as he desires. Tasya achalam shraddha. I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. Shraddaya architam ichchati. That is so that he can completely tanum bhaktaha. That bhakta can completely dedicate to that deity. It is I who make his faith steady. That's what Krishna is saying there. So what is the role of Supreme Lord? So Lord has given independence to everyone and he does not interfere with their independence because everybody has been given a living entity a choice. The Lord does not enforce a choice upon us. He gives the opportunity. Entire Bhagavad Gita, if you see, in the 18th chapter, Krishna clearly says, now what is your decision? Would you like to follow? If you can open that verse number. All of you can open 18.63. Open.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes,
Can,
Prabhu.
you can read the translation there,
Can I read, Prabhu?
please.
Thus I have explained to you the most confidential of all knowledge. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do.
See, after explaining entire Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, giving all the technical details, still Krishna is not forcing Arjuna to do what Krishna wants. He's saying you deliberate and take a decision. So, see, that's why I'm saying why Krishna, he's giving us all the complete independence so that the devotee can deliberate and take his decision. Tomorrow, nobody to be blamed because you took the decision. That's why similarly he says, He gives all facilities so that the demigod worshipper can fulfill their material desires. Okay, you are hankering for your desire. Okay, worship that specific demigod. I'll support you fully. Then people may ask, why does the Lord giving facility which lets the jiva fall down into the trap of illusion energy, Maya? If super soul does not give such facility, then there is no means of independence. So unless Lord gives that opportunity, there is no opportunity of independence, because everybody becomes like a robot. So along with independence, he also provides knowledge through instructions like Bhagavad Gita for ultimate happiness. He says, whatever you are trying to do, sarva dharman parityajya, just surrender unto me. Give up everything. I will take care of this. Ma suchaha, there is no doubt. Do not fear. So are the demigods powerful enough to sanction the desires of their worshippers? No, both the jivas and demigods are subordinate to the will of the Lord. Jivas cannot worship the demigods by his own desire, nor can the demigod bestow any benedictions without the supreme will. Like not even a blade of grass can move without the sanction of the Lord. This we have heard many times. But this is practical. Because Lord has Kala, Lord has Paramatma. In two ways, they control everything. As Kala, he controls non-devotees. As Paramatma, he controls the devotees. Then people go to the demigods when they are distressed, as advised in the material world. Then who a deceased person worships the sun god, a person wanting education worships Saraswati, a person wanting beautiful wife worships Uma. These are specific people who want that specific desire, they worship that specific demigod. And because a particular living entity wants to enjoy a particular material facility, the Lord inspires him with a strong desire to achieve that benediction from that particular demigod, so that he can successfully receive the benediction. See, anything to achieve perfection even in demigod worship, unless Lord inspires, it is not possible. So the particular mode of devotional attitude of the living entity towards a particular type of demigods is also arranged by the Lord. So the demigods cannot infuse the jivas with such affinity, but Krishna gives impetus to man to worship certain demigods. The demigods are actually different parts of the universal form of the Lord. Therefore, they have no specific independence. So this is further elaborated in the next verses. We'll see more. So we all we all have heard this story about this Bhasmasura. How many of you heard? How many of you are aware of this story?
Yes, Prabhu. Many times.
Okay. So there is some aspect which we have to learn. See, many of these people who worship these demigods, they are also sometimes cause trouble to the demigods themselves, whom they have worshipped. This is one such story. So Bhasmasura was a great devotee of Lord Shiva who had performed great penances to obtain a benediction from Shiva. So Shiva becomes very much pleased when somebody offers him respects, when offers tapasya. Then asked him what you wanted. So Bhasmasura wanted immortality, but Lord Shiva said it is practically impossible because he doesn't have that capacity to bless with immortality to someone. Then Bhasmasura asked that he wanted a boon by which, or capacity by which, when he places his hand on somebody's head, that person is burnt up. Immediately he becomes ashes, Bhasma. Then Shiva granted this request. Then Bhasmasura, he wanted to understand whether this benediction is working or not. See, he wanted to try on the head of Lord Shiva himself. So he wanted to place his hand on the head of Lord Shiva because he saw Parvati there and the most beautiful lady. So he wanted to reduce Shiva to ashes so that he can possess Parvati Devi. So then Shiva fled from that situation and Bhasmasura started chasing him. So wherever Shiva went, Bhasmasura was following him up. So finally Shiva managed to reach Vishnu in Vaikunta and he begged for solution and asked him for protection from this demon Bhasmasura. So Lord Vishnu, on hearing Shiva's problem, agreed to help him out. So immediately Lord Vishnu accepted the form of the most beautiful woman, Mohini Devi, and she appeared in front of Bhasmasura. So Mohini was exceedingly beautiful that Bhasmasura immediately fell in love. So he had asked Mohini to marry him. But Mohini put one condition, that if he is able to match her in her dancing moves, then Mohini will be able to marry him. That's like a competition. He should be competent enough to match her in dancing capacity. Then both of them started dancing. So while dancing, Mohini Devi was exhibiting various symptoms and various symbols. So one of that mudra was she placed her hand on the top of her head. So similarly, Bhasmasura also imitated her. So by seeing the situation, he also placed his hand on the top of his head and he immediately became burnt to ashes due to the power he had recently gained. So in that way, you can understand the mood and feeling that the the demons who worship, they are demoniac mentality, who worship the demigods, and they lose their understanding and capacity, and they are easily bewildered, and they are and the demigod also cannot sanction him. We see many times, we see Hiranyakashipu wanting immortality. Brahma says, I cannot give mukti pradata hi mukundaha. Only Mukunda can give mukti. We are not capable. Like all the demigods, they agree that they cannot give liberation. Only Lord Vishnu can give liberation. That's why he is known as Mukundaha, one who can deliver a person. So next verse, Krishna continues the mood of that devotee, and who is actually the sanctioner. Earlier, the person may think that demigod is sanctioning his desire, but actually whether it is demigod who is sanctioning the desire or it is Krishna who is sanctioning the desire is expressed in this verse. All of you can recite. Sataya Shraddaya Yuktas Tasya Aradhanam Ihate Labate cha tatah kaman Mayeva Vihitan Hitan Sataya Shraddaya Yuktas Tasya Aradhanam Ihate Labate cha tatah kaman Mayeva Vihitan Hitan. So Krishna is saying here, Sataya Shraddaya Yuktas. For those who worship with faith, Tasya Aradhana Mihate, who are engaged in the worship of the demigods, Labatecha Tatak Kaman, they obtain their desires fulfilled. Mayeva Vihitan Hitan. Actually, it is I who is sanctioning the desires. Endowed with such a faith, Sataya Shraddaya Yuktas, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod, Tasya Aradhana Mihate, and obtains his desires, Labatecha Tatak Kama. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. Mayeva Vihitan Hitan. Actually, even though the demigod might sanction our desires, unless Krishna sanctions, the demigod has no independent capacity to fulfill our desire. So Krishna is the prime sanctioner. So the demigods cannot award benedictions to the devotees without the permission of the Supreme Lord. Then what is the difference between these demigods and the living entities? The living entity may forget that everything is the property of the Supreme Lord, but the demigods do not forget, because they are in a higher position. They are blessed with higher capacity, higher intelligence, the administrative rule to manage this material world. So they are all assistants for the Lord in the execution of management of this material world. So they are blessed with higher capacities. So they do not forget that the Lord is the proprietor. But sometimes they do even forget, and they try to compete with the Lord, or they try to question the authority of the Lord. At that time, Lord also enacts such an pastimes by which he brings them under control. One such pastime we see is Brahma Vimohan Leela, where Lord Brahma trying to question the capacity of Lord Krishna. Then second one is Indra trying to counteract the capacity of Krishna. Then that Govardhana Leela. In both cases, Lord Brahma and Indra have to be subdued and make them realize their position. So Krishna does that to purify their consciousness, because they are also devotees. And he wanted to give them an opportunity to think that they are just a servant, not that they are masters of this material world. So that attitude, Krishna always keeps correcting the devotees so that they advance in their spiritual life. So what is the attitude of pure devotee? When in need of something, pray only to the Supreme Lord. Asking for material benefit is not a sign of pure devotee. Even if there is utmost request, because a pure devotee knows whatever it is I am going through, it is sanctioned by the Lord. So if it is the Lord's desire for me to experience this, he doesn't want to go beyond the desire of the Lord. And he doesn't want to disturb the Lord for all material requirements. That's why he doesn't request for any material benefit. So why does a living entity go to the demigods? Because he is mad to fulfill his lust. Then how does the Lord reciprocate with pure devotees? For the living entity who desires to return back home, back to Godhead, material desires are impediments. So Lord himself does not fulfill the desire when something undue is desired by the living entity. In Chaitanya Charitamrita it said, one who worships the Supreme Lord and at the same time desires material enjoyment is contradictory in his desires. Because anything material desire is like a poison, and you are trying to worship the Lord for getting Amrita. So Amrita and poison are like two contradictory subjects. So what is the difference between worship of the Supreme Lord and the demigod? Devotional service of the Supreme Lord and the worship of demigod are not on the same platform. Worship of a demigod is material, and devotional service of the Supreme Lord is completely spiritual. They are like heaven and earth. They are all of two different degrees. So in one lecture, Prabhupada explains, this is not good. So he must take the superior sanction. That shall I give him? Similarly, all these demigods, they cannot give you anything directly. With the permission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mayeva Vihitan Hitan, that benefit which they derive from the demigod, that is ordained by Krishna. Krishna says, when the demigod appeals to Krishna, this person is hankering after this thing and he is worshipping me. So just to keep the position of the demigod, Krishna says, all right, give him. Because the demigods are servants of Krishna, so one has approached the servant of Krishna. And further also, this is a shloka which earlier which was quoted, and this explains to you the nature of worship of these demigods. Yei Shraddaya Barhishi Bhagasho Havir Niruptam Ishtam Vidhi Mantra Vastutaha Ekah Pratan Namabir Ahuto Muda Granati Purnaha Swayam Ashisham Prabhu. See? In India, in Bharata Bhumi, there are many worshippers of the demigods. The various officials appointed by the Supreme Lord, such as Indra, Chandra, Surya, all of whom are worshipped differently. The worshipper offers the demigods their oblations, considering the demigod part and parcel of the whole, the Supreme Lord. Vidhi mantra vastutaha. Then niruptam ishtam, they worship the demigods. Therefore, the Supreme Lord accepts his offering and gradually raises the worshippers to the real standard of devotional service by fulfilling their desires and aspirations. Granati Purnaha Swayam Ashisham Prabhu. Swayam Ashisham Prabhu. The Lord personally sanctions. Because the Lord is complete, he offers the worshippers the benedictions they desire, even if they worship only part of his transcendental body. Ekaha Pratan Namabir Ahuto Muda. So even if they worship him in an indirect way, Lord sanctions them because he is worshipping even at least respecting to that path, Lord sanctions that desires. So this is one specific story which we come across. There is one devotee who had visited a Kali temple and prayed to the goddess in a very materialistic way as a general typical demigod worshipper. He wanted a material benediction and he gave a commitment, as soon as this material benediction is fulfilled, I will offer you one goat as a sacrifice. So very soon his desire was fulfilled. He got the desired result. But this obligation of offering the goat was not performed. After some days passed, again when he went to the temple, the goddess spoke to him, "Where is the goat which you have promised?" The Bhakta said, Ma, it is very expensive, and I don't think I can afford to feed you a goat. Then she said, all right, then at least you do something. You have to offer me something. So at least offer me a pig. So worshipper went away, neglecting the Mata's request. Then on one more occasion, when he visited the temple, again Kali Mata spoke to him and said, where is the offering of a pig? Then he started giving various excuses and said, I'm sorry, but I could not find any pigs in the nearby area. It is not so easy. Then Kali Mata replied, this is not very good. You have wanted a request and I have fulfilled. Now you should give me something in return. But just to make it very easy, I request you, at least offer me something that is available for you. So why don't you offer at least a small fly? Then this person said, my dear mother, there are so many flies which are flying around you. Why can't you just grab one for yourself? So what conclusion do we get? The demigod worshippers, they worship these demigods as a business. Once your business is done, once your work is done, they don't bother for the opposite person. There is no love involved anywhere in these transactions. They are very selfish and they have their own self-interest. They are not bothered for the system or for the process, for the promise what they have done. They are not ready to execute for the promises also. So this mentality, we have to be very careful not to fall under that category. So Krishna is trying to conclude these worshippers of demigods. What is their status by saying, all of you can recite this verse, Antavattu phalam tesham Tadbhavati alpamedasam
Bhavati alpamedasam
Devan devayajo yanti
Devan devayajo yanti
Madbhakta yanti mamapi
Madbhakta yanti mamapi
Antavattu phalam tesham
Antavattu phalam tesham
Tadbhavati alpamedasam
Tadbhavati alpamedasam
Devan devayajo yanti
Devan devayajo yanti
Madbhakta yanti mamapi.
Madbhakta yanti mamapi.
So Krishna is giving one conclusion which all of us have to understand. Many people say you worship any demigod, the result is same, you'll all go back to Vaikuntha. But Krishna is saying, clearly distinguishing, Antavantu phalam tesham, the phala or the result what we get by worshipping the demigod is temporary. Tad bhavati alpamedasam, then who are running behind them? Those who are less intelligent run behind the demigods, and the result what they achieve is also temporary in the process. And Devan Devayajo Yanti, the person who worships the demigods goes to the planet of the demigods. Mad Bhakta Yanti Mamapi, my devotees come back to me. There is a clear discrimination. Like you purchase ticket and sit in any bus, it will not take to your destination. But to sit in that specific bus which has to take you to your destination. Just because I have bus ticket, I can go and sit any bus and it will go to my house. It will not happen. So men of small intelligence worship the demigods. Tad bhavati alpamedasam, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Antavantu phalam tesham. Those who worship the demigods go to the planet of the demigods. Devan devayajo yanti. But my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. Mad bhakta yanti mama. So this verse refutes the philosophy of worshipping demigods and Krishna are equal. So this is clear. Krishna worship to demigod worship are not on an equal platform. It is not that everyone, regardless of whatever demigod is worshipped, will reach the Supreme Lord. If demigods are considered as different parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, then why different destinations? Worshippers of the demigods are less intelligent because they do not know what part of the body food must be supplied. Some of them are so foolish that they claim that there are many parts and many ways to supply food. There are 9 holes in the body. Food can be supplied through any hole. This is what their consideration is. Only in ignorance do they believe that demigods are independent and competitors to Krishna because of their unfortunate situation. So what is the perfect knowledge? Not only are the demigods, even ordinary living entities are parts of the Supreme Lord. So Krishna says, Mamai Vamshaha. All of us are my Amshas. They are all my part and parcels. So what is the difference in result? The results achieved by the demigods' benedictions are perishable because the demigods themselves are perishable. And the planets in which the demigods stay are also perishable. And the worshippers are also perishable. So thus such worship is performed by less intelligent living entity. Because the Supreme Lord is unlimited, his favor is unlimited, his mercy is unlimited. Therefore, the mercy of the Supreme Lord upon his pure devotee is also unlimited. Because a pure devotee engaged in Krishna consciousness in devotion service of the Supreme Lord achieves eternal abode. So in one lecture, Prabhupada explains, Antavantu phalam tesham tad bhavati alpamedasam. The benefit derived from the demigods, that is temporary. But rascals who have got less substance of brain thereafter that. It is clearly said, Antavantu phalam tesham tad bhavati alpamedasam. Alpamedasam means one who has got brain substance very little. They are attracted by all these things. They are meant for 3rd class, 4th class men. Because they will not worship God, all right, you worship these demigods. At least you try to worship something instead of becoming atheist. That is the process. But when one is actually intelligent, after many, many births, he should worship the Supreme Personality of God. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam. That is the earlier shloka what we have done. Similarly, if you worship other demigod, they cannot independently offer you any benediction. Krishna said, Mayaiva vihitan hitan. They have to take sanction from the Supreme Lord before giving you the benediction. But still such benediction is temporary. Antavantu phalam tesham. They are temporary. So such temporary benediction is meant for the alpa medasam, whose brain substance is very small, or the brain substance, instead of brain substance, it is cow dung. So, whose brain is filled with cow dung, only they worship the demigods. So similarly, in one more place in Bhagavatam, Vishaya Trusho Nara Pashavo Ya Upasate Vibhutir Na Paramtvam Tesham Ashisha Ishaha Tadanu Vinashyanti Yata Rajakulam. Ishaha, O Supreme Lord, unintelligent persons who thirst for sense enjoyment, Vishaya Trushaha, and who worship various demigods are no better than animals in the human form of life. Nara Pashavaha Ya Upasate Vibhutir Na Paratvam. They fail to, because of their animalistic propensities, they fail to worship your lordship. And instead they worship the insignificant demigods who are but small sparks of your glory. With the destruction of the entire universe, including the demigods, the benedictions received from the demigods also vanish. Tad anu vinashyanti yata rajakulam. Just like nobility when a king is no longer in. Tad anu vinashyanti. Everything will be destroyed. When the demigods are destroyed, their planets are destroyed, their benedictions are also destroyed. So similarly, one more place in Bhagavatam, it glorifies. Nate aravindaksha padopa sarpanam mrusha bhaved sarva suhrut priyatmanaha yate yata itaresham pratak atmanam satam adidrusho yad vapur adbhutam hinaha. So he said, O my Lord, possessing eyes like the petals of a lotus, Nate Arvindaksha, the worship of the demigods who are in the bodily concept of life, is fruitless in all respects. Yata itaresham pratak atmanam satam. But because you are the supreme friend, sarva suhrut priya atmanaha, and dearmost super soul of everyone, worship of your lotus feet, pada upasarpanam, is never useless. Mrusha bhave. You have therefore manifested your form as a fish. Adidrusho yad vapur adbhutam hinaha. Similarly, in one Skanda Purana it says, Vasudevam parityatya yo anya devam upasate. Leaving Vasudeva, who worships some other demigod, Swamataram parityatya swapachim vandate hi saha. It is like worship a person who gives up the protection of his mother for the shelter of a witch. So very strong statements. So similarly in Bhagavatam, one more space he says, Bhajantiye yatha devan deva api tathaiva chayeva karva sachivaha sadhavo dina vatsala. Bhajantiye yatha devan, those who worship the demigods, deva api tathaiva they received reciprocation from the demigods in a way just according to tathaiva, to that offering. Chayeva karma sachivaha, the demigods are attendants of karma. Chayeva, like a karma, like a shadow. Sadhavo dina vatsala, but sadhus are actually merciful to the fallen. So the demigods are like shadows. If you move your hand, accordingly only your shadow will follow. So you act accordingly, you receive accordingly. So demigods cannot do anything beyond what our endeavor is. So similarly, in one more place, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quotes this verse from Padma Purana. He says, Vyamohaya characharasya jagatastete purana agamascha tam tam evahi devatam paramaikam jalpantu kalpavadi siddhante punareka eva bhagavan Vishnu samasta agama vyapareshu vivechera vyatikaram niteshu nischiyate. Vyamohaya characharasya. There are many literatures. Jagataste Purana Agamaha. There are Puranas, Agamas, everything and all, just to bewilder the people. Vyamohaya chara acharasya, moving and non-moving category. They create illusion. Tam tam evahi devatam paramaikam jalpantu kalpavadi. In that specific literature, they say this particular demigod is supreme. They are spoken as chief demigods. Siddhante punareka eva bhagavan. But if you analytically study Vishnu samasta agama vyapareshu vivechena vyatikaram, if you specifically analytically study all these basic literatures, you understand Vishnu samasta agama vyapareshu. The conclusion is one should worship Lord Vishnu one and only. Niteshu nischiyate. By this conclusion, Niteshu Nishchiyate, with this conclusion that Krishna or Vishnu is the one and only the Supreme Lord.
Once upon a time, there was a king who had a very wise advisor who understood the speech of animals. He understood what they said, and he could speak to them in their languages. One day, the advisor was wandering along the riverbank with his followers. They came upon some fishermen who had cast a big net into the river. While looking into the water, they noticed a big, handsome fish who was following his pretty wife. Her shining scales reflected the morning sunlight in all the colors of the rainbow. Her feather-like fins fluttered like the delicate wings of a fairy as they sent her gliding through the water. It was clear that her husband was so entranced by the way she looked and the way she moved that he was not paying attention to anything else. As they came near the net, the wife fish smelled it. Then she saw it, and being alert, avoided it at the very last moment. But her husband was so blinded by his desire for her that he could not turn away fast enough. Instead, he swam right into the net and was trapped. The fishermen pulled in their net and threw the big fish onto the shore. They built a fire and carved a spit to roast him on. Lying on the ground, the fish was flopping around and groaning in agony. Since the wise advisor understood fish talk, he translated for the others. He said, "This poor fish is madly repeating over and over again, 'My wife, my wife, I must be with my wife. I care for her much more than for my life. My wife, I must be with my wife. I care for her much more than for my life." The advisor thought, "Truly, this fish has gone crazy. He is in this terrible state because he became a slave to his own desire, and it is clear that he has learned nothing from the results of his actions. If he dies keeping such agony and the desire that caused it, in his mind he will surely continue to suffer by being reborn in some hell world. Therefore, I must save him. So this kind man went over to the fisherman and said, "Oh, my friends, loyal subjects of our king, you have never given me and my followers a fish for our curry. Won't you give us one today? O royal minister, please accept from us any fish you wish." "This big one on the river bank looks delicious," said the advisor. "Please take him, sir," they said. Then he sat down on the bank. He took the fish, who was still groaning, into his hands. He spoke to him in the language only fish can understand, saying, "You foolish fish, if I had not seen you today, you would have gotten yourself killed. Your blind desire was leading you to continued suffering. From now on, do not let yourself be trapped by your own desires." And the fish realized how fortunate he was to have found such a friend. He thanked him for his wise advice. The minister released the lucky fish back into the river and continued on his way. You see, in life, in your life, only fools are trapped by their own desires. If you are truly honest with yourself, nothing or no one can cheat you, not even you yourself. So think about what you are chasing and why you are chasing it. And never let your desires fool you, and always learn from your mistakes.
Any questions, please? Okay, then thank you all of you. We'll meet again next week. So, understood the perspective. Do not run behind material desires. Do not run behind worshipping the demigods. They cannot actually sanction what beyond that capacity, because it has to be sanctioned by the Supreme Lord himself. We have only given this facility that worship the Lord, achieve the benediction, and go back home, back to him. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare